All right, so we've got a lot of really great details that we're going to go over today. Some of which were kind of obvious and others were kind of background, but made you scratch your head when you looked at them. So let's get Uzma's recording up, and we'll start with the letter that was given to King Jaehaerys announcing the next heir to the Iron Throne. It's written in beautiful calligraphy. It's a little tricky to read, but it does say, "The lords here assembled, named Viserys of House Targaryen, son of Princess Alyssa and Prince Balon, grandson of King Jaehaerys the First Targaryen, Prince of Dragonstone and rightful heir to the Iron Throne." And then it's signed with a chain link, which I'm assuming means that it's like the Maester's symbol of approval.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that would be that's the first thing that kind of got some detail notice was that scroll on the screen, which kind of sets up where we're going. Even though Balon was the youngest son of King Jaehaerys, and Princess Rhaenys is the daughter of his elder son, Aemon Targaryen. So that's where they set up the son of the second son versus the daughter of the first son. And that's where all the conflict with the naming a woman to the Iron Throne comes from.
Yeah.
Right, so Uzma's got our next one.
Then we have Syrax landing with Rhaenyra. There is a detail you might have missed. As you can, if you can see it on YouTube, you can see there is a nail driven on the left side of his neck. It seems like, at first I thought it might have been a mistake, but when I watched the funeral scene, the nail was still there. You can see it, and it almost seems like there is blood around it. So it seems like the nail was intentionally put there. You can see it more clearly in the funeral scene. What do you think, Constance? Can you see the nail here?
Yeah, I can see it. In fact, I think if you want to scroll back a little to one of the earlier shots, I think there's one on the other side as well. I think it's on both sides of the dragon. Yeah, there you go. Now, if you stop right here, if you look really closely on the right side of the neck, it looks like there's another one.
So was it a whole rod?
I think it's kind of like a bit for a horse kind of thing, where you could get the stirrup, you can get the guiding ropes around it. I think it's part of the dragon's flying system. I mean, we can't really see what it is, or it's where they loop chains when they chain her in the dragon pit.
It's possible.
They're
It's
definitely
for
there.
the chains, maybe.
Yeah, they're definitely there for a reason. It's not an accidental vigil. But I'm thinking it has something to do with the way they fly, because it's not like where you put your feet. It's not a stirrup.
Yeah.
So maybe it's where you put the reins or where they put the chains. Either one is my guess.
Can it be a handhold for the person sitting in the saddle?
It could be if they're leaning forward. That would make sense too if it's a handhold.
Yeah. I'm so glad it's not a mistake, because some people were talking about it like it's a mistake or something.
No.
But it's not. It's intentionally put here. So we can
Yeah,
see.
that's definite. And you could definitely see there's another one on the other side of her neck too.
And there's blood on. Like you can see the blood on the side.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. So
And
we're going
then-
to talk for a moment
yeah.
here about this costume. This is Rhaenyra's flying outfit. She's dressed practically with pants and boots, wearing a divided riding coat, and she's wearing leather gloves, which she's pulled off in this shot. Her overcoat has shoulders and wrist cuffs of overlapping scale. Now, these are soft leather. They're not hard leather, so this isn't an armored coat. This is more or less a riding coat, a lady's riding jacket. She has silver frogs closing it down the front, and a chain belt with a couple little dangles, which clips at the waist and then comes around the back. And then there's a few metal studs on the actual shoulder pieces. This is a riding outfit, typical of an upper-class lady that's wearing something that can get dirty. It's still elegant, it's still stylish, but it's made to be practical. This is not a court dress. This is a riding dress that she wears because it's going to smell like dragon. It's going to get dirty. So she's wearing this in her very first shot. I think it's a really nice touch to the costumers, showing that she loves dragons. Look at the dragons. Look at the scales. All right. next thing we're looking at is one of those details that made you go, what the fuck? Because that's what it is. It's literally tapestries of people having sex.
Yeah, I think it was in Queen Emma's room, and you can
Yes,
see
this is
that
in Emma's room.
there's one side there's this windows, and on the three other walls there are these tapestries.
Tapestries of various and sundry fuckery. Now, if you look at these, they show people in various sexual positions, and there's several others in other parts of the castle. And it's hard to see exactly, but it looks like there's dragons involved.
Wait, slow down on those shots. I'm taking notes.
Yeah. There's tapestries of men and women making love, women and women making love, men and men making love, and then dragons getting in on that action. Based on the art style, how it's very Grecian, it's very old world Greco-Roman, I'm going to say that these are Valerian tapestries. Since we've drawn the analog of old Valeria and Rome,
Is that
a tapestry in that style.
Right
yeah,
side?
There's a dragon. That's a dragon right there. I saw a more clear shot of this. And there's even a quote from some of the actors going, we were really confused that there's all these tapestries of dragons having sex with humans. So that's exactly what that is. That is a dragon screwing a person in an orgy. So I'm going to say these are old Valerian tapestries that were brought over with them. And it's, if anything, I think it's maybe for fertility, to encourage the queen to be fruitful.
Remember
Otherwise,
that that the Valyrians claimed that their white hair and eyes came from interbreeding with dragons.
The blood of the dragons, exactly.
It would explain why some Targaryen children are born with scales.
Yeah, that could also be part of, or the inbreeding.
I gotta say that it's brilliant sex position that Game of Thrones is known for. You know, it's like...
Yeah, it's a background of sex, just blaring you in the face during this whole segment. So that's those tapestries. So that's a fun detail. I wonder how much the art department loved doing those sketches.
And I think it's funny because we sound like grandparents seeing porn for the first time. Like, wait, is that what? Okay, nobody's that flexible.
They're playing leapfrog. Let's move on to something a little more tame.
Then we see the book Rhaenyra and Alicent were talking about in the Godswood of King's Landing, and the letters that were mentioned were lashed together with ropes and cables. Nymeria's fleet dispersed at the coming of the first storms, sweeping them across the sea, east, west, and south into something invested pockets of basilisk, and I think it's isles. So that's the words we see, and then Rhaenyra tears off that page, and if you'll see, there is a martel sun and someone on the wave ship. After that, you can see that the book Alicent is holding, there is a house martel sun, and inside that there is a ship. So I think that's how House Martel's symbol looked like when Nymeria first came to dawn. You can see a close-up shot. What do you think about this, Constance?
I think so, because the defiant symbol, the defiance of Dorne, really didn't come into play until they were threatened to be subjugated, right? So this symbol with the sun, with the ships, shows a unification of the Dornish and the Rhoynar, with the unification of their two cultures into what becomes the modern Dornish. I think it's beautiful. I think it's a beautiful illustration and a really good symbolic melding of the two cultures.
I agree. I wonder why they changed it to simply the sun with a spear through it.
Don't know. Maybe to reflect the the fact that it looks more like a spear and a shield to represent their defiance and their defense, I think, is how they took that in the future or latter parts of Dorne.
And we can see the Godswood, which we didn't get to see in Game of Thrones, but it was there in the books. Sir Dontos summoned Sansa to meet her in the Godswood. That's where they met around King Joffrey's death before they escaped. What do you think about the Godswood in King's Landing?
I think it's a beautiful touch. It should be there. I mean, the Godswoods were always in important locations. It makes sense that that there would be one there as a symbol of the faith, old and new. And yeah, it was in the books. So it's nice to have another book nod thrown back into the show.
I love all the book details that they've put in the show. You can see the sea behind too.
It's very pretty, very serene.
Then what do we have next, Constance?
Next we have the map that we were talking about, Corlys bringing up the piracy and the triarchy. And this was his concern when he brought the issue forth to the small council. And here we can see a map of what we call the Stepstones and the disputed lands. Now, the triarchy, which was starting to rise to power, was an alliance of the free cities of Myr, Lys, and Tirash, who were all Valerian colonies at one point in time. They drove Volantis out of the disputed lands and started taking over, fighting back against pirates and making the shipping lanes safe, which everybody was, they talked about it and they said, oh, this is a great thing. But Corlys is afraid of their gaining power and gaining control of those shipping lanes and what that means. So this is a really cool map showing those details and reflecting his concern. He's prepared. He came to the briefing with his notes ready to rock. This is a guy that knew exactly what he was ready to talk about, and the rest of them all just kind of dismissed it.
No one paid attention to it.
Yeah, no one paid attention to him, which is kind of lame. But this is a plot point. Do not dismiss this as something that you're just going to see as a one-off. Pay attention to the scene because it will make sense in the future.
I think it also shows how smart he is. Like, he can see ahead. He can see that it might be a problem. Like, yes, they are working in their favor. Right now, they are getting rid of the pirates for them. But it can be a problem in the future. He can see that. But the others are like, they are just doing us a favor by getting rid of the pirates.
Yeah,
So-
they're not looking at the long term. They're just looking at the short term, which is part of Corlys's genius, is that he can see the long term and prepare for it.
Do you think Damon would have agreed with him if he had been here?
Oh, Damon definitely would have agreed. Yeah.
They seem to get along, at least. Corlys supported Damon. Okay, next we have the partition.
The turn.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, it's the tourney.
Yeah. During in the tourney grounds, we can see the partition, and there are a lot of banners. Starting from the left, there is a banner with a red heart on a white field. I can't tell which banner this is. Then we have House Hightower, Bolton, and there's a black diamond on yellow field. And then there's House Tully, House Manderley, and the one we were discussing earlier that we couldn't figure out, the yellow sun on the blue field. I think it's House Stokeworth, because that's who Rhaenyra talked to Alicent about when they were jousting. Right? I think it's...
Yeah, they brought up the Stokeworths. And I know that's a name that gets repeated on occasion.
And the reason they created a new banner is because it's not mentioned in the books. They don't have a banner in the books, sigil in the books.
Okay,
and then,
that would explain why we don't know it.
Yeah.
It's new!
And then we have House Lannister, House Baratheon, and there's a red serpent on black. I don't know which house it is. And then we have House Mallister. Then there's a repeat of all the banners that were previously there. and you can see the flags of all these houses behind as well. What do you think about it, Constance?
Yeah, I think it's a demonstration of all the houses that are at this tourney, because we know that there's a great shot of Daemon facing off against all these different combatants, and each one of them has their houses on display. And it only makes sense that they would honor each house of each combative lord, each knight would get some props there on display in the field. So that makes sense.
It's probably also to show which houses are participating in the tourney.
Exactly, yeah.
And what do we have next, Constance?
All right, so here we have the close-up of the shots, and oh man, did we have to do a shot of that? A shot of Alicent picking at her nails when she's anxious. Oh, that's hard to look at. Just because it's a sign of her nervousness and a sign of her insecurities. But you can see the interior of her sleeves, and her sleeves are really pretty up close. She's got some beadwork on there that's really nice. And we'll go into Alicent's costumes at the end of the segment.
I think it's her habit to, like, whenever she's stressed, she hurts her nails or something. Either she bites them, or in this scene, she's just using her other hand to hurt it. And when you can see when Sir Otto said to her that she has to go to King Viserys,
she starts doing it again.
Doing it again, yeah.
Yeah.
And he noticed it too. He said, "Stop that."
Nervous habit. I think it helps reflect her innocence and her overall lack of poise and polish, where she is at this point in the storyline.
Yeah.
The next is a shot of Emma's ring, which I think is a butterfly or a bumblebee.
It looked like a man to me, like in but it doesn't seem to be House Aaron's sigil, right?
Actually, it could be a bird in flight.
Yeah.
What do you guys think? What do y'all think about what this could be? We know it's Emma's ring.
Ooh, the Rorschach ring.
Yeah, I don't know. It kind of looks like a butterfly. They focused on it a lot, so I'm wondering if it matters in the future episodes. But to me, it looks like a butterfly. But
yeah, I
maybe
really
I can
can't
see
make it out from my angle.
Maybe this is moon and an eagle.
To me, it looks like a bumblebee, but I can also, like, if I look at it sideways, I can see it kind of like maybe the tower with some scenery behind it, the Hightower. I don't know.
But it was Queen Emma Aaron's ring, right? I think he was holding it after her death.
Yeah.
So it's her ring. So maybe it's of some significance to Queen Emma. I guess we'll find out in the future.
Yeah, I think it's just like his memento of her.
Yeah.
Is that a little A on there? It could be an A. I don't know. It's like you said, it's a Rorschach test.
Then we have Viserys carving when Alicent comes to meet her. And at first I thought it was King's Landing, but now I think it's Dragonstone. You can see there's a tiny dragon, and when you look at the whole picture, you can see the Dragonstone building we see a lot on the back, and there are long stairs in the center. So I think it's Dragonstone. What do you think, Constance?
Yeah, I was trying to decide. I didn't know if this was like Dragonstone or a model of Old Valyria. It's not King's
at least
Landing.
This building looked like Dragonstone to me, and there are dragons on the sides as well.
Got the dragon's skull there. Yeah, it could be Dragonstone. That would be a really cool project if that's what he's working on. I mean, who knew he was into miniature terrain building, right? I mean, that's a hobby that's hard to get into, but when you're king, you could afford it. But I think that could be Dragonstone. It's certainly not King's Landing. I know that for a fact.
And there are these paintings again.
Yeah, there's more of the sexy time Valyria. So that's going to be a theme, I'm sure. That's just so weird. It's like, of all the things you're going to put in the background, let's put an erotic tapestries.
Okay,
Hey, it's
so
good to
that
be the queen.
Yeah.
okay, so that's all for how the dragon is in the details. Back to you, Sam.
Actually, we've got one more thing. Go ahead and stop sharing it, and we'll pick up my screen here.
Okay.
We're going to talk about the costuming of Alicent Hightower. This is not just a matter of this is what she's wearing. This is reflecting her journey as a character. So let's pull this up here, and you could take a look at my screen. She's got several different looks that we're engaging with during the course of the series, right? She's got 4 costumes that we could definitely make out. The first is this one here, which is what she's wearing when she's in the palace with Rhaenyra, and it's a pale powder blue. It's got some beautiful work on it with the embroidery along that collar there, and it's basically a very innocent dress. That is the whole point of her look, is innocence. Blue is often associated with virginity. Like if you look at anything of the Virgin Mary, there's all in most Catholic imagery, there's always that visual of the maid with that kind of look. So let's see here. What she's got: white shift on with little gathered ruff. She's got short sleeves with a long design, and she's got her hair down in a very innocent maidenly fashion. Now, when she goes to the tourney, it's a dress in the same exact color. This is her tourney / best court finery dress, because we see her wearing it during the investment ceremony at the end, too. It's got a V-neck with a little bit more skin showing, overlapping seams with a bit of a trim forming a diamond pattern, sleeves that are split at the elbow with a damask embroidery inside. And we saw earlier the shot of her fingernails, a little bit of golden beadwork on the cuffs there and on the dress. But this is what I find interesting, and this is, I think, a design choice. This overlapping style here that we can see of her gown is reminiscent of the Kingsguard armor. I believe that this was an intentional choice to show that she is Rhaenyra's protector. She is her best friend. She is her confidant. She is her closest companion. She goes with her wherever Rhaenyra goes. I think that this was kind of like a visual to show that they go together. And then there's one more costume change. I don't have a picture of it here, but it's her funeral dress, which is a very Italian Renaissance style with a high black velvet collar and V-style banding. And then Daddy steps in. Why don't you wear your mother's dress? And this is where we start to see the evolution of Alicent from an innocent maiden to a pawn. Her dress is off the shoulder, black satin, black silk. She's got her hair half up and half down. She's got a whole fresh new set of jewelry, a whole fresh new set of headband on. And it's basically changing her entire look and her entire demeanor from this innocent child to a more alluring adult. The whole point of this is to look at me as a woman, don't look at me as a girl. And so the costume evolution in this episode shows us the journey that Alicent's going to be taking from a very innocent young maiden to a very manipulative or manipulated individual who uses her sensuality and her sexuality like most women have to in this world. She uses it as part of her arsenal for power and control. So that's the evolution of Alicent Hightower's costuming in the course of this episode. So I wanted to just point that out for our Dragons in the Details segment. But that's the last thing that I had on here, so we can go back to Sam now. Thank you for your time.